Lily had always been the quiet one. While her older sister Rachel commanded every room she walked into, Lily was perfectly content being invisible. Rachel was the type of person who knew exactly what she wanted and how to get it. She wore designer clothes, spoke 3 languages, and dated the kind of men who owned companies instead of working for them. Lily, on the other hand, wore scrubs to work every day. She was a nurse at the children's hospital downtown, and honestly, she loved it. The pay wasn't great, and the hours were exhausting, but watching a sick kid smile made everything worth it. She lived in a small apartment with a cat named Toast and was genuinely happy with her simple life. Rachel was engaged to David Winters. If you lived in their city, you knew that name. The Winters family owned half the real estate downtown and had their fingers in everything from hotels to medical companies. David was handsome, successful, and exactly the kind of man their mother had always dreamed one of her daughters would marry. The engagement party was held at the Winters estate, which was less of a house and more of a palace. Lily stood in the corner, sipping champagne she didn't really like, watching Rachel glow in a dress that probably cost more than Lily's monthly rent. Rachel looked happy, truly happy, and that made Lily smile. David's mother, Catherine Winters, glided through the party like a queen inspecting her kingdom. She had that kind of elegance that made you stand up straighter without realizing it. Everything about her was calculated, from her pearl necklace to her practiced smile. Lily had met her twice before, and both times felt like she was being evaluated and found wanting. Around midnight, Rachel found Lily hiding near the dessert table. Her sister looked beautiful but tired, and for just a moment the perfect mask slipped. "You okay?" Lily asked. Rachel squeezed her hand. "Yeah, just a lot, you know. Everyone has expectations." Then she laughed and shook her head. "Listen to me complaining at my own engagement party. I'm fine. David's wonderful. Everything's perfect." Those were the last words Lily heard her sister speak. Rachel and David left the party around 1 in the morning. They were heading to David's apartment downtown. Lily had offered to stay and help clean up, but Rachel waved her off, telling her to go home and get some sleep before her shift the next day. The call came at 3:15 in the morning. Lily was already in her scrubs about to leave for work when her phone rang. It was her mother, and the sound she made wasn't quite crying and wasn't quite screaming. It was something worse, something animal and broken. "There was an accident," her mother managed to say. "Rachel and David, you need to come to County General right now." The next few hours existed in a blur. Lily drove to the hospital on autopilot, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. She kept thinking that it couldn't be that bad. Her mom was probably overreacting. Rachel was fine. She had to be fine. She wasn't fine. A drunk driver had run a red light going 60 miles an hour. He hit the passenger side of David's car directly. Rachel had died on impact. The doctor said she didn't suffer, didn't feel anything, was gone before she even knew what was happening. People always said that like it was supposed to be comforting. David survived, but barely. He was in surgery for 8 hours. Lily sat in the waiting room with her parents, watching her mother fall apart while her father sat frozen, unable to process what was happening. The Winters family had taken over an entire floor of the hospital. Catherine Winters moved through the chaos like a general commanding troops, making phone calls, demanding updates, and ensuring her son got the absolute best care available. When David finally came out of surgery, the doctors said he was stable but had slipped into a coma. They couldn't say when or if he would wake up. Brain injuries were unpredictable. It could be days, weeks, months, or never. Lily went through the motions of the next few weeks like a robot. There was Rachel's funeral, which felt surreal and wrong. She kept expecting her sister to walk through the door and tell everyone this was a mistake. She helped her parents sort through Rachel's apartment, packing up a life that had ended far too soon. In one of Rachel's drawers, Lily found a journal. She shouldn't have read it. She knew that. But late at night, alone in her apartment with Toast purring beside her, Lily opened it anyway. The entries were scattered and honest in a way Rachel never was out loud. She wrote about loving David but feeling suffocated by his family's expectations. She wrote about Catherine's constant comments about grandchildren and social appearances. She wrote about missing her art classes because Catherine thought hobbies were unbecoming for a Winters wife. On one page, circled several times, Rachel had written, "I love him, but sometimes I wonder if I'm marrying David or marrying into a business contract." Lily closed the journal and cried for the first time since the accident. She started visiting David at the hospital. She wasn't sure why at first. Maybe it was because he was the last person who had been with Rachel. Maybe she felt like she owed it to her sister to make sure he wasn't alone. The nurses knew Lily from her own work, so they let her sit in his room even though she wasn't immediate family. She would read to him sometimes, tell him about her day, talk about Rachel, sharing funny memories from when they were kids. David lay there peaceful and still, connected to machines that beeped and hummed. Lily would hold his hand and tell herself she was doing something good, something Rachel would have wanted. 6 weeks after the accident, Catherine Winters found Lily in David's hospital room. Lily jumped up, suddenly feeling like she'd been caught doing something wrong. "Mrs. Winters, I'm sorry, sit down." "Lily." Catherine's voice wasn't unkind, but it wasn't warm either. She closed the door behind her and took the chair across from Lily. For a long moment, she just studied Lily with those sharp, calculating eyes. "You've been coming here every day," Catherine said. "I just thought I didn't want him to be alone." "That's very kind." Catherine folded her hands in her lap. "You clearly care about my son. That's why I'm going to be direct with you. I have a proposition." Lily's stomach dropped. Something about the way Catherine said proposition made it sound like a business deal. David needs stability. The family business needs stability. There are legal complications with David being unmarried and incapacitated. Inheritance clauses, business agreements, things that require a spouse to execute. Catherine leaned forward slightly. "I want you to marry my son." Lily actually laughed. She couldn't help it. The whole thing was so absurd that laughter was the only response that made sense. "You're joking." "I assure you I am not." Catherine's face remained perfectly serious. "It would be temporary, of course. Just until David wakes up. You would be compensated generously for your time." "No." Lily stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. "No, absolutely not." "That's insane, is it?" Catherine stood as well, and suddenly the small hospital room felt even smaller. "You've been here every day reading to a man in a coma. You clearly feel some sense of responsibility. I'm simply asking you to make it official. He was my sister's fiancé, my dead sister's fiancé. Do you understand how wrong this is? I understand that David needs help and you're in a position to provide it." Catherine's voice never rose, never showed emotion. "Think about it. I'll give you some time." "I don't need time." The answer is no, but Catherine just smiled. The kind of smile that said she knew something Lily didn't. She left a business card on the table beside David's bed and walked out without another word. Lily grabbed the card and shoved it in her pocket, fully intending to throw it away the moment she got home. She looked at David, lying there so still and peaceful, completely unaware that his mother was trying to marry him off to his dead fiancé's sister. "Your family is insane," Lily whispered to him. Then she grabbed her bag and left, promising herself she would never, ever consider Catherine's ridiculous proposal. She had no idea that within 2 weeks, she would be standing in that same hospital room, wearing a simple white dress, saying vows to an unconscious man. Lily threw Catherine's business card in the trash the moment she got home. Then she pulled it out an hour later, tore it into tiny pieces and threw it away again. The whole thing was ridiculous. Marry David? A man in a coma? Her dead sister's fiancé? It was like something out of a bad movie. She tried to focus on work, on her patients, on anything that would make her forget Catherine's cold, calculated proposal. But it was hard to forget when Catherine Winters didn't believe in taking no for an answer. 3 days later, Catherine showed up at Lily's apartment. Lily opened the door in her pajamas, holding a bowl of cereal, and nearly dropped it when she saw who was standing there. "How did you get my address? May I come in?" Catherine didn't wait for an answer. She walked past Lily into the small apartment, looking around like she was inspecting a crime scene. Her eyes lingered on the worn couch, the stack of medical textbooks on the coffee table, and Toast, who was sleeping in a patch of sunlight. "Mrs. Winters, I already told you no. You didn't hear the full offer." Catherine sat down on Lily's couch like she owned it. "I'm prepared to compensate you significantly. $50,000 for every month you remain married to David, plus full access to his medical care team, which includes the best neurologists in the country." Lily's mouth went dry. $50,000 a month was more money than she made in a year. But still, it's not about money. It's about what's right. Rachel just died. David is in a coma. This whole thing is wrong on every level. Rachel is gone. Catherine's voice softened just slightly. And I know that's painful. But David is still here and he needs help. There are experimental treatments in Switzerland that could help him wake up. Treatments that cost millions of dollars. Treatments that require certain legal authorizations that only a spouse can provide under his medical proxy. Then why don't you provide them? You're his mother. The legal structure is complicated. Trust me, if there was another way, I would take it. Catherine leaned forward. I'm not asking you to love him. I'm asking you to help save his life. After Catherine left, Lily sat on her couch for an hour, staring at nothing. Toast jumped into her lap, purring, completely unaware that his owner's world had just tilted sideways. But Lily held firm. She told herself that Catherine was manipulating her, using grief and guilt to get what she wanted. She wouldn't fall for it. Then Catherine showed up at the hospital while Lily was working. Then at her favorite coffee shop. Then at her parents' house. That last one was what broke something inside Lily. She came to have dinner with her parents, and there was Catherine Winters, sitting at their kitchen table like she belonged there, drinking tea with Lily's mother. Lily, sweetheart. Her mother's eyes were red and puffy. They were always red and puffy these days. Mrs. Winters was just telling us about David's condition. She says there's a treatment that could help him. Lily felt her blood run cold. Mom, can I talk to you in private? In the hallway, Lily grabbed her mother's arm. What is she doing here? She came to talk about Rachel. She's been so kind, Lily. She paid for the entire funeral, did you know that? We couldn't have afforded any of it. Lily's stomach twisted. She hadn't known. Her parents had always struggled with money. Her dad worked at a factory and her mom did part-time bookkeeping. Rachel had been helping them out before she died. There's something else, her mother said quietly. Your father's cancer came back. The world stopped spinning. What? We found out 2 weeks ago. We didn't want to tell you with everything else happening, but the treatment he needs. Our insurance barely covers anything. We're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills. Lily leaned against the wall, feeling like she might throw up. Why didn't you tell me? Because you're already dealing with losing Rachel. We didn't want to add more to your plate. Her mother's voice cracked. Mrs. Winters mentioned she might be able to help. She knows doctors, specialists. That's when Lily understood. Catherine hadn't just shown up to talk about Rachel. She'd shown up to apply pressure to show Lily exactly what was at stake. And the worst part was, it was working. Lily went back to visiting David at the hospital, but now every visit felt heavier. She would sit beside his bed and wonder what Rachel would want her to do. Would her sister be angry? Would she understand? She started reading Rachel's journal again, looking for answers in her sister's words. One entry, written 3 months before, the accident stood out. I wish David could marry someone who sees him as a person, not a bank account or a family name. Someone who could love him for who he really is underneath all the Winters family expectations. Lily closed the journal and looked at David's peaceful face. Without the machines and the hospital setting, he looked like he could just be sleeping. She'd learned things about him over the past weeks from the nurses who'd worked there longer. They said he used to volunteer at the children's hospital sometimes, that he was quiet and kind, that he always remembered everyone's names. I don't know what to do, she whispered to him, even though he couldn't hear. Your mom is basically blackmailing me. My dad is sick and I keep thinking about what Rachel would want. She loved you. I know she had doubts, but she loved you. David, of course, didn't answer. The breaking point came when Lily received a call from her father's oncologist. The cancer was aggressive and they needed to start treatment immediately. But her parents' insurance had denied coverage for the specific treatment protocol the doctor recommended. The appeal process would take months they didn't have. Lily sat in the hospital parking lot after her shift, crying in her car. She called the insurance company and spent 2 hours being transferred between departments, each person telling her there was nothing they could do. The recommended treatment was experimental, not covered. They were sorry. That night, Catherine called her directly. I heard about your father, I'm sorry. How did you? Lily stopped. Of course, Catherine knew. She probably knew everything. I can have him transferred to the best cancer center in the state. I can ensure he gets the treatment he needs regardless of insurance coverage. I can make sure your parents never worry about medical bills again. Catherine paused. All I'm asking is that you help my son. That seems fair, doesn't it? You help David, I help your father. Lily wanted to scream. She wanted to tell Catherine that blackmail wasn't help, that using her dying father as leverage was evil, but she was so tired. Tired of grief, tired of fear, tired of feeling helpless while everyone around her suffered. If I do this, Lily said slowly, I want it in writing. David gets treatment. My father gets treatment. And the second David wakes up, we get this marriage annulled. I don't want a penny of your family's money beyond what's needed for medical care. Agreed. And you don't get to control my life. I keep my job. I keep my apartment. This is a legal arrangement, nothing more. Of course, Lily felt like she was signing away her soul. When? The paperwork is ready. We can do it this weekend. After hanging up, Lily sat in silence. She thought about calling someone asking for advice. But who could she call? Her parents were dealing with enough. Her friends wouldn't understand. Rachel was gone. She pulled out Rachel's journal one more time and found the last entry her sister had written, dated the morning of the accident. Wedding is in 2 months. I'm scared and excited and confused all at once. I love David, I really do. But sometimes I look at this life I'm about to step into and wonder if I'm making a mistake. Mom would say I'm overthinking it. Lily would tell me to follow my heart. But what if your heart doesn't know what it wants? What if you're just doing what everyone expects because it's easier than disappointing people? Lily closed the journal and pressed it against her chest. I'm sorry, Rachel, she whispered. I'm so sorry. The wedding happened on a gray Saturday morning in David's hospital room. There was no music, no flowers, no guests, just Lily in a simple white dress she'd bought at a department store, Catherine, in an expensive suit, and 2 lawyers who'd brought a stack of paperwork. The officiant was a justice of the peace who looked uncomfortable with the whole situation. He kept glancing at David, at the machines, at Lily's face, which showed nothing. Do you, Lily Chen, take this man? Lily barely heard the words. She stared at David's face, thinking about Rachel, about her father, about choices and consequences, and how life could change completely in the span of a few weeks. I do, she said, and her voice sounded like it was coming from far away. They put a ring on her finger. Someone gave her papers to sign. Catherine smiled her cold, satisfied smile. When it was over, Lily sat alone with David in his room. She was legally his wife now. The wife of a man she barely knew, a man who'd been engaged to her sister, a man who might never wake up. She took his hand, and for the first time since she'd agreed to this insanity, she let herself cry. Not quiet tears, but deep, body-shaking, sobs that came from somewhere dark and broken inside her. I'm sorry, she told him through her tears. I'm sorry Rachel's gone. I'm sorry I couldn't save her. I'm sorry I just married you while you're in a coma. I'm sorry for all of it. The machines beeped their steady rhythm. David's chest rose and fell with the ventilator's help. Nothing changed, but Lily's life had changed completely. She was Mrs. David Winters now, and she had no idea how she was going to live with what she'd just done. The Winters estate felt more like a museum than a home. Everything was white marble, crystal chandeliers and artwork that probably cost more than most people's houses. Lily stood in the enormous foyer with her 2 suitcases and Toast's carrier, feeling completely out of place. Catherine had insisted she move in the day after the wedding. Your family now, she'd said, though the word family came out sounding more like employee. It would look strange if you didn't live here. A housekeeper named Helen showed Lily to her room, which was bigger than her entire apartment had been. It had a king-sized bed, a walk-in closet, and windows that overlooked the garden. It was beautiful and cold, and didn't feel like hers at all. Mrs. Winters typically expects dinner at 7, Helen said, hovering in the doorway. She was older, maybe in her 60s, with kind eyes that held a hint of sympathy. "But don't worry, dear. She travels often. You'll have the place to yourself most of the time." After Helen left, Lily let Toast out of his carrier. He immediately hid under the bed. "Yeah, buddy," Lily said. "I feel the same way." She tried to keep her life as normal as possible. She still worked her shifts at the children's hospital, still wore her scrubs, still ate her lunch in the break room with the other nurses. Catherine hated it. "It's inappropriate," Catherine said one morning over breakfast. "A Winters doesn't work as a nurse." "Well, this Winters does." Lily buttered her toast without looking up. "That was part of our agreement. I keep my job." Catherine's jaw tightened, but she didn't push it. They'd both signed contracts after all. Legal documents that made this whole bizarre arrangement official. David had been transferred to a private facility that specialized in coma patients. It was quieter than the hospital, more peaceful. Lily went every evening after work, still reading to him, still talking about her day. She'd started bringing her dinner sometimes, eating beside his bed, while telling him about the kid who'd drawn her a picture of a dinosaur, or the teenager who'd finally smiled after weeks of treatment. "Your mom thinks my job is beneath the Winters name," Lily told him one night, picking at her takeout. "But honestly, I don't care what she thinks. I'm not actually part of this family. I don't even know what I am." The experimental treatment had started. Doctors from Switzerland had flown in with equipment Lily didn't fully understand. They monitored David's brain activity, adjusted medications, used some kind of electromagnetic stimulation therapy. Catherine spared no expense. Whatever David needed, he got. True to her word, Catherine had also gotten Lily's father into the best cancer center in the state. His treatment started immediately, and within weeks he was already showing improvement. Lily's mother called crying happy tears, thanking Lily over and over, not understanding what it had cost her daughter. The estate felt emptier in the evenings. Catherine traveled constantly for business, and Lily found herself wandering the huge house like a ghost. One night, unable to sleep, she found herself outside a closed door on the second floor. Helen had mentioned it was David's childhood room. Lily knew she shouldn't go in. It felt like an invasion of privacy, but her hand was already on the doorknob, and then she was inside. The room was frozen in time, like a museum exhibit of a teenage boy's life. There were swimming trophies on a shelf, textbooks still stacked on a desk, posters of bands on the walls. But what caught Lily's attention was the corner of the room set up as an art studio. There was an easel with a half-finished painting still on it. Canvases leaned against the walls, covered in landscapes and abstract designs. Paint tubes were organized by color on a small table. Lily moved closer, studying the paintings. They were good. Really good. Full of emotion and color and life. She found sketchbooks tucked into a drawer, filled with drawings of people, places, and dreams. On one page, David had sketched what looked like a community center with kids playing basketball. He'd written notes in the margins. Summer program for underprivileged youth. Art classes, sports, somewhere they can just be kids. Lily sat on the floor with the sketchbook in her lap, realizing she was crying. Rachel had mentioned once that David wanted to do something meaningful with his life, something beyond just running the family business. But Lily hadn't understood what that meant until now. She started spending more time in that room, looking through David's things, trying to understand who he'd been before the accident. She found journals where he wrote about feeling trapped by family expectations. She found college applications to art schools that had never been sent. She found letters he'd written but never mailed, including one to his mother explaining why he wanted to step back from the company. "You were just like Rachel," Lily whispered one night, surrounded by evidence of dreams that had been put aside, both of you trying to fit into boxes that were too small. At the treatment center, she started talking to David differently. Less about her day and more about what she'd discovered. She told him about his paintings, about the community center plans, about all the things he'd wanted to do. "I think Rachel saw this side of you," Lily said, holding his hand. "She wrote in her journal that you deserve to be loved for who you really are, not what your last name is. I think she understood you better than your family ever did." David's brother, Trevor, came to visit once. He was younger than David by 2 years, sharply dressed, and immediately made Lily uncomfortable. "So you're the replacement," he said, looking her up and down in David's room. Moving up in the world, aren't you? From nurse to winter's wife. That's quite a promotion. I'm here to help David. Right. Help. Trevor laughed, but it wasn't a nice sound. Everyone in this family helps themselves. You'll learn that soon enough. After he left, Helen, who'd been adjusting David's pillows, shook her head. Don't mind him. Trevor's always been jealous of David. Probably happy his brother's out of the way for the company's succession. That's awful. That's the Winters family, dear. Helen patted Lily's shoulder. But you seem different. You actually care about David as a person. That's more than most people in this family ever did. Months passed in a strange routine. Work at the hospital during the day, evenings with David, nights in the too-big house with Toast as her only real companion. Lily's father's cancer went into remission. The experimental treatment for David continued. Life moved forward, even though it felt like everything was suspended in time. Lily found herself talking to David about everything. Her fears, her grief over Rachel, her frustration with Catherine, her confusion about her own life. It was easier talking to someone who couldn't respond. No judgment, no advice, just listening. I don't know what happens when you wake up, she said one evening, 6 months into their bizarre marriage. We'll get the annulment like we agreed. You'll go back to your real life and I'll go back to mine. This whole thing will be like a weird dream. But honestly, I think I'll miss these talks. Is that crazy? Missing one-sided conversations with a coma patient? She laughed at herself, squeezing his hand like she always did before leaving. But this time something different happened. His finger moved. Lily froze. She stared at their joined hands, holding her breath. David, nothing. She waited, wondering if she'd imagined it. Then it happened again. Just the slightest twitch of his index finger, but it was definitely movement. Oh my God. Lily rushed to the door, calling for the nurse. He moved. His finger moved. The medical team came running. They checked his vitals, examined his reflexes, ran tests. The head neurologist, Dr. Patterson, looked at the brain scan results with barely contained excitement. His brain activity has increased significantly, Dr. Patterson said. The treatment is working. He's starting to come out of the coma. Catherine was called immediately. She arrived within the hour, her usual composure cracking just slightly. When will he wake up? It's hard to say exactly. Could be days, could be weeks. But his brain is definitely more active. He's fighting his way back. After everyone left and it was just Lily alone with David again, she sat in her usual chair and looked at him with new eyes. This wasn't theoretical anymore. He was actually going to wake up. He was going to open his eyes and find out he'd married his dead fiancé's sister while unconscious. I don't know how to explain this to you, Lily said quietly. How do I tell you that your mother basically blackmailed me? That I married you to save your life and my dad's? That Rachel's gone and I'm wearing her engagement ring? She looked down at the ring on her finger, which Catherine had insisted she wear. You're going to hate me. David's chest rose and fell with the ventilator's rhythm. The machines beeped their steady song. But now there was something different in the air. The feeling of waiting for something inevitable. Lily stayed later than usual that night, watching him, memorizing his peaceful face. Because she knew that peace was about to shatter, for both of them. When she finally left, she paused at the door and looked back. I'm sorry, she whispered. For all of it. I hope you can forgive me. She didn't sleep that night. She lay in the too-big bed in the too-big house, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the phone call that would change everything again, because David waking up meant the end of this strange chapter of her life. It meant annulment papers and explanations and going back to who she'd been before. Except Lily wasn't sure who that person was anymore. Somewhere between the wedding and now, between the one-sided conversations and the discovered dreams in his childhood room, something had shifted. She'd started to care about David, not as Rachel's fiancé or as an obligation, but as a person whose dreams had been put aside, whose kindness the nurses remembered, whose art still waited in a forgotten room, and that terrified her more than anything else. The call came at 4 a.m, 2 weeks after David's finger had first moved. Lily was already awake, staring at her phone like she'd been doing every night, waiting. When it finally rang, her heart jumped into her throat. He's awake, Dr. Patterson said. You should come now. Lily threw on clothes and drove to the facility faster than she probably should have. Her mind was racing with 1,000 thoughts, none of them coherent. What would she say to him? How would she explain? What if he hated her? Catherine was already there when Lily arrived, standing outside David's room talking to doctors. She looked perfect as always, not a hair out of place despite the early hour. "He's confused and disoriented," Dr. Patterson was saying. "That's completely normal. His memory of the accident is fragmented. We've told him the basics, but he's going to need time to process everything." Catherine saw Lily and her expression hardened slightly. "He knows about Rachel. I told him." Lily's stomach dropped. "How did he take it? How do you think?" Catherine's voice was sharp. "He's devastated. I haven't told him about the marriage yet. I thought you should be the one to explain that particular situation." "Great. Perfect." Lily felt like she might throw up. Dr. Patterson put a gentle hand on her arm. "He's asking for you, actually. He keeps saying your name. We think he might have heard your voice while he was in the coma. That somehow made it worse." Lily took a deep breath and pushed open the door to David's room. He was sitting up slightly, still connected to monitors but without the ventilator. His eyes were open, actually open and aware, and they locked onto Lily the moment she walked in. He looked thinner than before, pale with a confused vulnerability that made him seem younger than his 28 years. "Lily," his voice was rough from disuse, barely above a whisper. "Hey." She moved closer, not sure if she should sit or stand or run. "Welcome back," they said. He stopped, closed his eyes like the words hurt. "They said Rachel's dead. I'm so sorry." Lily felt tears sting her eyes. "The accident. She didn't suffer." It was instant. David's face crumpled. He turned away from her and Lily could see his shoulders shaking. She wanted to comfort him but didn't know if she had the right. After a moment, she sat in the chair beside his bed, the same chair she'd sat in for months, and just waited. When he finally spoke again, his voice was thick with grief. "I remember the impact. I remember her screaming. Then nothing. How long have I been out? Almost 7 months. 7. He looked at her like he couldn't process that. "You've been here. I heard you. In the darkness, I heard your voice. You read to me. You talked about your patients. You cried once and said you were sorry you couldn't save her." Lily's throat tightened. "You remember that?" "Not remember exactly. More like dreams, pieces. Your voice was the only real thing." He finally looked at her directly. "Why? Why did you come here every day for someone you barely knew?" This was it, the moment she had to tell him. Lily took a shaky breath. "There's something you need to know. Something your mother asked me to do. I want you to understand that I didn't want to, but there were circumstances and I thought I was helping and—" "You're rambling," David said, and there was the ghost of a smile on his face. "You did that in my dreams too. We're married." The smile disappeared. "What?" "Your mother needed someone to make medical decisions for you. There were legal issues with the treatment, something about authorization and insurance and a million things I didn't fully understand. She asked me to marry you. Temporarily. Just until you woke up." The words tumbled out too fast. "My father was sick and she said she'd help him if I helped you. And I know how that sounds, but I promise I'm not trying to take advantage of your family's money. We have a contract. The moment you're better, we get it annulled and I walk away." David stared at her for a long moment. Then another. Lily couldn't read his expression. Was he angry? Disgusted? She wouldn't blame him either way. "My mother blackmailed you," he finally said. "It wasn't a question. It's complicated." "It's not complicated. That's exactly what she did." David leaned back against his pillows, looking exhausted. "That sounds exactly like something she would do." "I'm sorry," Lily blinked. "You're sorry? I'm the one who married you while you were unconscious, to save my life. And your father's life." He closed his eyes. "My mother is very good at putting people in impossible positions. Trust me, I know." They sat in silence for a while. Lily didn't know what else to say. She'd expected anger, accusations, demands for an annulment immediately. She hadn't expected understanding. "I should go," she said quietly. "Let you rest. I just wanted to make sure you were okay, Lily." He opened his eyes and looked at her. "Thank you. For being here. For whatever your reasons were, you were here. That means something." She nodded, not trusting her voice, and left before she started crying again. The next few weeks were strange in ways Lily couldn't have predicted. David came home from the treatment center, still weak but improving every day. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, slowly regaining strength. Catherine wanted to hire a full-time nurse, but David refused. Lily's a nurse, he said. If I need medical help, she's right here. So they fell into an awkward routine. Lily helped him with physical therapy exercises in the morning before she left for work. She'd come home to find him in his art room, painting for the first time in years. They'd have dinner together, usually in uncomfortable silence, both of them not sure what to say. Catherine pushed for them to make public appearances together. You're married. People need to see that. People can see whatever they want, David said. We're not performing for anyone. That was the first time Lily saw him stand up to his mother. Catherine looked shocked, then angry, then calculating. She left without another word. She's going to make this difficult, Lily said after Catherine was gone. She always does. David was still weak, but there was steel in his voice that hadn't been there before the accident. Maybe almost dying changed a person. I'm sorry you got dragged into this family. I dragged myself into it. I made the choice. An impossible choice. He looked at her carefully. Can I ask you something? When you were sitting with me all those months talking to me, was any of it real? Or was it all just obligation? Lily thought about the question. About the night she'd held his hand and cried. About reading Rachel's journal and discovering who he really was. About the paintings in his room and the dreams he'd given up. It started as obligation, she said honestly, but it didn't stay that way. I learned about you. The real you, not the Winter's Air version. The artist. The person who wanted to build community centers for kids. The man my sister loved but worried would get lost in family expectations. She met his eyes. So yeah, some of it was real. More than I expected. Something shifted in David's expression. I found your notes. In my childhood room, someone had been going through my things. That was you? Lily's face heated. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have, but I was trying to understand who you were, and I'm glad you did. He smiled, and it was a real smile this time. No one else in this house has ever cared enough to look. They started actually talking after that. Real conversations about real things. David told her about feeling trapped in a life planned by someone else. Lily told him about Rachel's journal, about her sister's doubts and dreams. She loved you, Lily said one evening. They were in his art room and she was watching him paint, but she was scared of losing herself in your family's expectations. She was right to be scared. David's brush moved across the canvas in steady strokes. This family consumes people. I've watched it happen my whole life. Is that why you stopped painting? My mother said art was a hobby, not a career. Said Winter's men ran companies, not art studios. He paused, studying his work. I listened. I always listened. That was my mistake. 3 months after David woke up, Catherine called a family meeting. Trevor was there, looking smug. Catherine sat at the head of the table like a queen holding court. I need to discuss something important, Catherine said. The annulment, Lily's heart sank. Here it was, the end of this strange chapter. There's a complication, Catherine continued. Your grandfather's will has certain stipulations. David must remain married for 2 years following any wedding, or he forfeits his inheritance and his position in the company. The room went silent. Lily felt her blood run cold. You never mentioned that. It didn't seem relevant at the time, didn't seem... Lily stood up, her hands shaking. You lied. You said temporary. You said until he woke up. I said what I needed to say. Catherine's face was calm, unmoved. The situation hasn't changed. David needs a wife for 2 years. You're already married. I suggest you both make the best of it. David's voice cut through the tension. No. Everyone turned to look at him. I'm not holding Lily hostage in a marriage she never wanted. David stood, still a bit unsteady but determined. If I lose the inheritance, I lose it. I don't care about the money or the company position. You should care, Trevor interjected. I'd be happy to take over. Then take it. David looked at Lily. I won't do this to you. We'll file for annulment tomorrow. But Lily found herself hesitating. She looked at David, really looked at him. The man who'd stood up to his mother for the first time. Who was painting again. Who understood what it meant to feel trapped. The man who'd thanked her instead of resenting her. What if I stayed? The words came out before she'd fully thought them through. David's eyes widened. What? Not because of money or obligation, but because... Lily took a breath. Because maybe we could help each other. You need time to figure out what you want without your family's pressure. I don't know what I need, but maybe we could figure it out together. Catherine smiled her satisfied smile, but Lily ignored her. She was looking at David, and he was looking back at her, and for the first time, there was something real passing between them, something that felt like the beginning of a choice they were both making freely. Okay, David said softly, if you're sure. I'm not sure about anything anymore, Lily admitted, but I'm willing to try. It wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't love, but it was honest, and right now that felt like enough. The decision to stay changed everything and nothing at the same time. Lily and David were still married, still living in the same house, but now it felt different. Less like a business arrangement, and more like two people trying to figure out who they were after trauma had turned their lives upside down. They started small. Real conversations over breakfast instead of awkward silence. David asked about Lily's patients, and she told him about the 7-year-old who was terrified of needles but loved dinosaurs. So Lily had drawn T-Rexes on his bandages. Lily asked about his paintings, and David showed her the landscape he was working on, explaining how colors could express feelings words couldn't touch. I forgot how much I loved this, David said one evening in his studio. Lily was sitting on the floor watching him work. My mother always made it seem like loving art was a weakness. Like real men built empires, not paintings. That's ridiculous, Lily said. Creating something beautiful takes more courage than running a company your grandfather built. David looked at her with something like gratitude. Rachel used to say things like that. She understood this part of me. The mention of Rachel hung in the air between them. It happened sometimes, these moments where the ghost of Lily's sister reminded them both of how complicated this situation was. I miss her, Lily said quietly, every day. And sometimes I feel guilty for being here with you, like I'm betraying her memory. I know. David set down his brush. I feel it too. But I don't think Rachel would want either of us frozen in guilt forever. She'd want us to live. They started going to therapy separately at first, then together. Dr. Chen, their therapist, helped them navigate the complicated grief of losing Rachel while trying to build something between them. You're both carrying survivor's guilt, Dr. Chen said during one session. David, you survived the accident. Lily, you survived losing your sister. Neither of those things are betrayals. They're just life. Messy, unfair life. It helped hearing someone else say it. Slowly, the guilt started to feel less like chains and more like something they could carry together. David started making changes. Big ones. He told Catherine he was stepping back from day-to-day operations of the company. Trevor could handle it, or they could hire someone. David didn't care which. He was going to focus on the foundation he'd always dreamed about. Catherine was furious. You're throwing away everything your grandfather built. No, David said calmly. I'm building something he should have built. A legacy that actually helps people instead of just making money. The foundation became real. David found a building downtown, an old community center that had closed years ago. He renovated it with his own money from a trust fund his grandfather had left him that Catherine couldn't touch. The center offered free art classes, sports programs, and tutoring for kids whose families couldn't afford after-school activities. Lily found herself getting involved too. She organized health screenings and first aid classes. She brought some of her young patients to the art sessions when they were well enough. Watching David teach a group of teenagers how to mix colors, his face lit up with genuine joy. Lily realized she was seeing the person he was always meant to be. This is what Rachel saw in you, Lily told him one night. They were sitting on the floor of the empty center after everyone had gone home, eating pizza straight from the box. The person who cared about making a difference. She saw it before I did, David admitted. I was so busy trying to be what everyone expected that I forgot who I actually was. He looked at Lily. You helped me remember. These past months, getting to know you, watching you with your patients, seeing how you care about people without expecting anything back. It reminded me what matters. Something warm bloomed in Lily's chest. It had been building for weeks now, this feeling. It wasn't the dramatic, sweep you off your feet kind of love. It was quieter, steadier. The kind that grew from really knowing someone, from choosing them every day. But she was still scared to name it. The tabloids had discovered their story. Pictures of Lily and David at the community center appeared online with headlines like, Coma Wedding, Inside the Strangest Marriage in High Society, and Sister Swap. How tragedy led to controversial union. Trevor gave an anonymous interview suggesting Lily had manipulated the whole situation. Old classmates came out of nowhere with opinions. Lily's co-workers at the hospital looked at her differently, some with sympathy, others with judgment. "I can't go anywhere without people staring," Lily told David one night. She'd come home from work in tears after overhearing two nurses gossiping about her in the break room. "They think I'm some kind of gold digger who trapped you." "Then let's tell them the truth," David said. "What truth? That your mother blackmailed me? That'll make it worse?" "No. The truth that we're choosing this now. Not because of money or obligation, but because we want to." He took her hands. "Lily, I know this started in the worst possible way. But these past months, getting to know you, building the foundation together, just existing in the same space, I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose you." Lily's breath caught. "David, I'm not saying it's love, not yet. I don't even know if I'm capable of that right now with everything I'm still processing. But it's something. And I think it could become something real if we give it a chance. People will always judge us. They'll always say it's wrong. Let them." David's grip on her hands tightened. "I'm done living my life for other people's approval. My mother spent years controlling every decision I made. I'm not letting strangers dictate what I do now." They decided to do an interview, a real one where they told their story honestly. No hiding, no pretending. They talked about Rachel, about the accident, about Catherine's proposal and why Lily had agreed. They talked about grief and guilt and the messy process of healing. "I'm not replacing my sister," Lily said to the interviewer. "I could never replace her. But I'm also not going to apologize for trying to move forward with my life. Rachel wouldn't have wanted me frozen in grief forever." The interview went viral. Some people understood. Others didn't. But at least the truth was out there in their own words. On what would have been Rachel's 30th birthday, Lily and David went to her grave together. They brought flowers, and David brought a painting he'd made of Rachel from memory, smiling and full of life. "I'll always love her," David said, kneeling beside the headstone. "She was my first love. But I'm learning that you can love someone and still let them go. Still move forward." Lily placed her hand on the cold marble. "I hope you understand, Rachel. I hope wherever you are, you're not angry with me. With us." The wind rustled through the trees, and for just a moment Lily could have sworn she felt her sister's presence. Not angry. Just there, watching, maybe even at peace. 18 months after David woke up from his coma, they were having dinner at the community center. They did that sometimes, eating takeout after the kids had gone home, planning new programs and dreaming bigger dreams. "I've been thinking," David said, setting down his chopsticks, "about us, about this marriage." Lily's heart skipped. They only had 6 months left until the 2-year requirement was up. 6 months until they could walk away if they wanted to. "The annulment," she said. "You want to—" "No!" David reached across the table and took her hand. "I want the opposite. I want to start over. Do this right." "What do you mean?" David slid out of his chair and got down on one knee. Lily's eyes widened. "We did this backwards," David said. "I married you while unconscious. You married me out of obligation. Neither of us chose it freely. But I'm choosing now." He pulled out a small box.
Inside was a simple ring, nothing like the elaborate diamond Catherine had insisted she wear.
"Lily Chen, will you marry me? For real this time, not because of contracts or family pressure or medical emergencies, just because I want to spend my life with you." Tears streamed down Lily's face. "That's the worst proposal I've ever heard." "We're already married, I know. But this time it means something." David smiled, and it was that real, genuine smile that made her heart skip. "So what do you say?" Lily thought about everything they'd been through. The tragedy, the manipulation, the grief, the slow building of something real. She thought about Rachel and somehow knew, that her sister would want them both to be happy. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you, again, for real this time." David slipped the ring on her finger next to the one Catherine had given her. Lily looked at both rings. One represented obligation. The other represented choice. She decided to keep wearing both. Because the hard parts of their story mattered too. They'd gotten through them together. 6 months later, they had a small ceremony in the community center's garden. Nothing like the cold hospital wedding. This time there were friends, flowers, and vows they wrote themselves. Lily's parents were there, healthy and smiling. Helen from the estate came, crying happy tears. Even some of the kids from the center attended, throwing rice and cheering. Catherine came too, though she sat in the back with a pinched expression. Trevor didn't come at all. When the officiant asked if they took each other, both Lily and David said "I do" with absolute certainty. And this time, when David kissed his bride, Lily kissed him back, feeling nothing but joy. They didn't have a fairy tale ending. They still saw their therapist. They still had hard days where grief hit unexpectedly. The tabloids still wrote unkind things sometimes.